Today, I'm very excited to bring you guys somewhat of a review on one of my favorite cars. Definitely my favorite American car of all time, and it's going to be this. So it's going to be a 2016 Dodge Viper SRT. So at some point in time, they changed it. It might be a 15. Might have to get corrected on that. But at some point they changed it so where there's GTC, GTS, and then obviously your ACR. And your ACR is going to be the last one produced that has all the aero, so the front splitter, the canards, the vents in the fender, and then the wing and the diffuser out back. So it's going to be your track model. And for this car in particular, this car has some mods. So it has cams, has a modified exhaust, so it still has a muffler, but it's still relatively loud. So the exhaust is going to be a side exit exhaust. So it's right next to your ear, and all the passengers say that it is loud and it kind of makes their ears ring. But this car is very similar to S2000. So when I first gotten into it, it was a very familiar yet kind of, I don't know how to explain that feeling. It just felt like I kind of knew the car. Maybe I've been obsessing over the car for such a long time that I've looked at photos enough of it and I've kind of looked at it from the outside enough. But the first time I got in the car, I drove it like normal right away. I drove it like an S2000. And this today is probably my third or fourth time. So thank you, Ian, for letting me drive the car. So there have been two people besides him that have driven the car, and I'm one of those two. So fairly honored. This car just makes a lot of torque. It's a very crazy handling car. It doesn't drive necessarily like your normal, your Corvette or something. Corvettes are still rather tame. You know, they're not wild. They don't give you a sense of fear. But for this particular car, it's very, very scary. Obviously, to my knowledge, I don't have too much knowledge about Vipers. I'm not as in-depth as the owner, Ian, is. But, you know, just basic details and, you know, just the basic response, like the driving feel, why this car gives me that feeling of excitement. And obviously, we'll go over exterior details of the car. So this car, like I said, it has a long front, short rear, so it's very similar to an S2000. And then with your side exit exhausts, the car doesn't sound like anything from behind, but once you get in front of the car, or once you get beside the car, this car is loud. When this thing does this flyby, it's absolutely crazy. So I don't have an assistant with me today, so I don't have a backup shooter because it's kind of a last minute thing. But you can see here that this whole front clamshell is going to be carbon fiber. So it's a rather light piece, and that's stock from the factory. And then obviously your V10, your 8.4 liter V10 with that cross brace. So this piece you can get in carbon fiber as an option. But, you know, being a car that's from 2016, this is one of those sports cars that is still very true. You know, 6-speed manual, and it's not much to it. It's an engine, some wheels, and some power, and a good old 6-speed manual. So the foot pedals, as you see here, so you can adjust it. They go forward and back. And that's with the button on the steering wheel here. So it's very LaFerrari-esque. So like I said, the steering wheel is not really, so it tilts up and down, but it doesn't go forward and back. So it's not necessarily telescopic. And so one common problem with Vipers apparently is the door. If you slam it too hard, the glass will shatter. So obviously close it very lightly. Back in the car now. You guys heard that startup from the outside, and you can, I don't know if you can see the shifter from that angle, but the shifter does angle towards the driver. And the thing with this car is that it's, most of the time, like right now, I'm under 2,000 RPM, which usually it's like most cars like to bog, so it's kind of hard because when you're driving in 3,000 RPM or 4,000 RPM on a local road, you're basically half the rev line. So second gear goes up to 60. I think first gear might even go to 60, but I've never tried. And the handling characteristics of this particular car, it's something that, it's just with the amount of power that the car has, I kind of don't feel so safe in pushing the car to its limits. And obviously right now I chose the worst time to, you see it's hard, like when you're doing stuff like that, the car's bogging. But caught in between the, like, I can't replicate it when the car's not moving. Like right there, you can kind of get stuck in between the little thing in between second and third, or sorry, second and fourth, which is something that happens in other cars, but this car seems to happen more often. So you kind of have to go slower through from your third to second kind of downshift. And then in first gear, there's literally no way for you to floor it and not have wheel spin. So if this car had traction control off, or if it didn't have traction control, a lot of them would end up in a barrier. So I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of the older Vipers were. They ended up in a barrier because this car is just, there's just too much power. And with a lot of people who don't know how to drive, obviously, then it just goes right into the guardrail. And I can understand why there aren't many people that chose to buy this car, because even as a sports car, for your day-to-day purposes, you can't use it. You can't use it as a daily. And then as your weekend car, even driving it any more than 20 minutes, or if you're stuck in stop-and-go traffic, it's an absolute nightmare to kind of drive. And it's kind of hard to explain the fear behind this car, because you really have to experience it. You have to be sitting in the passenger seat or driving it to kind of understand how wild of a car this is. You know, this thing, it's just, it's a Viper for a reason. It's a monster. It's nothing like a Corvette. Like, this car is way better than a Corvette, but what the Corvette can do, this can't do, and kind of vice versa. Just a feeling of excitement in that driving experience. It's more so of a driver's car. It's probably the newest driver's car that I've driven to date. A lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but I would much rather have a Viper ACR than, say, a GT3. You know, and another thing is, it's just kind of weird to see an Asian getting out of a Viper. So when I first heard about Ian having this car, I was kind of like, you know, what kind of Chinese guy buys a Viper? You know, granted, I haven't met very many Asian Viper owners, so it does kind of go to the, kind of like a stereotype, you know. And then I was actually really interested in him and this car, but we didn't really talk. And then until recently, where we got to hang out more, you know, kind of going back on that story time where there's a lot of people you never expect that you hang out with. And granted, he's had this car for a couple years now, but he's driven very little on this car. This car has just passed 10,000 miles on this car. If it was me, you know, I would drive it every day. Fuck it. I mean, just the shifter, it's a very notchy shifter. It's relatively easy to use. And then obviously you have your reverse gear, which is right next to 6, which makes it kind of awkward sometimes. But otherwise, like, with the little quirks like the steering wheel being too big, the seat being too high, so those are things that you can change. The clutch, actually, once you get used to it, it's not bad. But everything else about the car, the driving characteristics are very fun. It's actually a very, it's not an ACR, but I feel like around corners it is very accurate. But throttle control is very important in how the car responds. Obviously, if you're not, you know, being nice to the car, you can end up in trouble very fast. And I, for one, and you know, I've had my fair share of oh shit moments, but this is just one of those cars where it's kind of like, I don't know if I can save it if I let the rear end hang out. But I would love to drive it with traction control off, but probably in the summer when that comes back around, or when I have my own Viper, because I would be doing mad burnouts in this shit if I had a Viper. And so I'll do a short little poll in a little bit, and then you guys can get to kind of hear how the car sounds. But I'm pretty sure, I don't even know if you guys can hear me over this. Just the whole time you're sitting in the car, the whole experience is, okay, I can't see anything out of any of the windows, and all I hear is boom, 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 right next to my ears. But everything else is fairly simple. You know, you have your tachometer is straight dead on in front of you, and then you have your speed, which is kind of irrelevant off to the side, but it does have a small speedometer right below the 7, so right past red line, and then your fuel obviously is to the right side. And when you hit red line, it'll light up and turn into a snake, but I don't think I've hit red line because, or I don't think I've paid attention to that because this car is just so wild and just so scary. Obviously, but it's just not as scary as this car, where every thought is like, every time I put my foot down on the throttle, I'm just thinking, I'm gonna put this into a wall, which obviously I'm not, and I haven't yet, but let's hope that doesn't happen.
这车实在太臭了。
对啊。
还是前面那个车呀？
还是什么？
没事。
So we had to open the windows there because we're dying from just the amount of CO2 that's coming out of the exhaust that's coming back into the cabin, because I do have the climate control on. Maybe I should have it on recirculation. That might be better. That might be a better idea. That's a lot better. But in this car, the handling is, it's just with how big the steering wheel is, it's kind of hard for me to get an accurate grasp, because it does actually, with a little bit of turning in the steering wheel, the car will actually have some sort of reaction. And usually with larger steering wheels, that doesn't happen. It's usually not a very direct kind of feeling. It's more so you turn the steering wheel, okay, it's not doing anything, you gotta turn more. And there's that second gear I was talking about again, because I'm kind of talking and driving, so I can't really focus on shifting. So every time I'm going to second, I'm always catching that in-between point between second and fourth. But out of all the cars, if you had in that range of about, so right now this car's probably going